Good afternoon, folks. Welcome back to the Food for the Faithful channel with me, Bill Reimer, your reluctant prophet. Much of what I did in my former life has prepared me for confronting the prevailing dystopic landscape created by radical woke ideology. Patterns are always predictive, especially when they involve human beliefs and behaviors. This is the great value of biblical prophecy. It predicts both behaviors and outcomes. Yet examining biblical prophecies presents a problem for many. It appears to me that most evangelical Christians assume that once an event occurs which seems to fulfill scriptural prophecy, that something similar will never happen again. But the reason the outcomes of certain phenomena are so predictable is that when specific criteria of collective behaviors are met, then similar outcomes to those of the past will likely be the result. And since society is interconnected and interdependent, seemingly isolated phenomena can have ripple effects on things which at first glance may seem unrelated to the initial event, even though it was that initial event which caused the ripples to spread throughout the entire social system. This is why I teach systems-based thinking, or used to, when I was still active as a consultant. It is also why I call myself the reluctant prophet, since I base my predictions on my ability to observe how past events relate to how present events relate to similar past events and make comparisons to previous outcomes. It is both sad and frustrating for me to watch someone walk into the path of an oncoming juggernaut to have my warnings go unheeded. In Virgil's poem, the Aeneid, Cassandra warned the Trojans that the Greeks were hiding inside the Trojan horse. I am here to warn you that inside the Trojan horse of woke socialism lies your demise. Will you ignore me as the Trojans did Cassandra? The outcome is up to you, since I have been meticulous in giving you cautionary advice. So what affords me this gift of prophecy? Staying mentally present and ever mindful. I never assume I fully know or understand a phenomenon. I suppose the single greatest fault of our education system is that we are taught facts as though things are forever static, unchanging, and can be fully understood. Oddly, this mindset flies in the face of the scientific method, since science is built on never presuming that the phenomena being examined has been fully understood. Note that this error was used to propagate lies about COVID, the much touted vaccines, mask mandates, and social distancing protocols that resulted in untold damage to our children, their education, an enormous hit to the economy, and the single largest transference of wealth over the shortest period of time in human history. This was not based upon following the scientific method. Rather, it was a presumption on the part of many, blind faith for many more, and Machiavellian manipulation on the part of those who knew the actual truth and used it as a weapon against humanity writ large. Which is why I noted these inconsistencies in the reasoning behind these failed protocols and mandates, as did many others, of course. But all who did, like me, were in many cases brutally censored to the point where they lost employment and were shunned by relatives and friends. In fact, 2 are right now on trial in downtown Ottawa for their contribution to the Freedom Convoy. Political dissidents on trial in a free country. You can't make this up. So, when one assumes they already know, why bother investigate further? I literally have had people who are close to me state this to my face. But more galling is how many fellow believers have fallen into this category. So from the ancient Norse writings of Holmwall, there is a saying which loosely translates into Norwegian, and I'll use it since I do not speak ancient Norse and only speak Norwegian poorly. En vitlos mann vet alt han tror, mellom fjellene hvor han bor. Or, a witless man knows everything he believes between the two mountains where he lives. This sums up perfectly why people assume far too much. The only cure for ignorance is relentless curiosity. One requires a presence of mind to remain aware that we do not understand anything fully, since our ignorance infinitely exceeds our understanding. Only sheer ignorance and stupidity can lead us to assume we understand complex multivariate phenomena completely, which pretty much sums up Trudeau's entire government in a nutshell, with the emphasis on nuts. This arrogance is the opposite of Paul's famous admonition to Timothy from 2 Timothy 2 verse 15 in the King James Bible. Study to show yourselves thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. Now, how are we to divide the word of truth if we do not remain constantly curious? We must embrace our quest for the truth, not merely for knowledge, as though understanding were a static thing. The Bible warns us about that in 2 Timothy 3, verses 7 and 9, again from the King James Version of the Bible. Verse 7, never learning, never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. 8, now as Jonas and Jambres withstood Moses, so do these also resist the truth. Men of corrupt minds reprobate concerning the faith. Verse 9, but they shall proceed no further, for their folly shall be manifest unto all men, as theirs also was. I find it remarkable that many believers behave as though they understand the infinite mystery of the divine so well they can place the omniscient in a box wrapped up in a neat little ideological bow. Our government, besotted as it is with woke ideology, is incapable of understanding the results of its own actions. Worse, it makes those in charge incapable of admitting their failures, even when they are presented with a complete fiasco resulting from the policies they've pursued. They are attempting to build a system that will be capable of addressing all the complexities of life. They are attempting to build a system that will figuratively reach unto heaven. Today we call this globalism. So, in the vein of weighing the present with past examples of such human hubris and vanity, let us examine the metaphorical reality behind the story of the Tower of Babel from Genesis 11, verses 1 to 9 from the King James Bible. Verse 1, and the whole earth was of one language and one speech. Verse 2, and it came to pass as they journeyed from the east that they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. Verse 3, and they said to one another, go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone, and slime had they for mortar. Verse 4, and they said, go to, let us build us a city and a tower, whose top may reach unto heaven, and let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. Verse 5, and the Lord came down to see the city and the tower, which the children of men builded. Verse 6, and the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language. And this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them, which they have imagined to do. Verse 7, go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. Verse 8, so the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth. And they left off to build the city. Verse 9. Therefore is the name of it called Babel, because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth. And from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. So there you have it. The system they are attempting to create, one which will seek to bring all humanity under one umbrella of total control, is destined to collapse into confusion under its own weight, where no one understands the meaning of one another's words. Just like today, where it has been necessary to create doublespeak to comprehend the fact that progressive means the opposite of progress. Let us remember that the Sabbath was created for man, and not man for the Sabbath. The technology being used to build this system of total control is enslaving us instead of liberating us, to the point where we now serve the system. This is a religion without God. Rather, it has replaced God with man becoming his own false God. This sinful pride is the reason that Satan was cast down to earth out of heaven in the biblical story of his fall from grace. And as Nietzsche prophetically stated in The Gay Science, God is dead, God remains dead, and we have killed him. How shall we comfort ourselves, the murderers of all murderers? What was holiest and mightiest of all, that the world as yet known, is bled to death under our knives? Who will wipe this blood off us? What water is there for us to clean ourselves? What festivals of atonement, what sacred games shall we have to invent? Is not the greatness of this deed too great for us? Must we ourselves not become gods simply to appear worthy of it? This passage is exactly reflective of Genesis 11 verse 6 in the King James Version. And the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language, and this they begin to do, and now then nothing will be restrained for them, which they have imagined to do. Man is once again attempting to become his own God, to make his throne rise above that of God's throne, just as their father Satan did when he was cast out of heaven, forgetting that, as old Bob Dylan stated so brilliantly, you may be a preacher with your spiritual pride. You may be a councilman taking bribes on the side. You may be working in a barber shop. You may know how to cut hair. But you may be somebody's mistress, maybe somebody's heir. But you're going to have to serve somebody. Yes, you're going to have to serve somebody. Well, it may be the devil or it may be the Lord, but you're going to have to serve somebody. The tools of man's own demise are tools of his own creation. With the technology that exists today, which gives madmen such unprecedented ability to re-engineer society and manipulate the narrative, it will take a populace very awakened indeed to counter the godly unreason behind globalism. This time the collapse of Babel will only occur once horrendous, murderous damage has been wreaked upon mankind. All because man just didn't realize God will not be mocked, because you only have two choices. Two choices who you're going to serve. Will it be the devil or will it be the Lord? The only two choices before us. If these aren't things to think and pray about, I don't know what are. But with that trial going on downtown, with that poor Leach woman and Chris Barber on trial for what? For asking our government to follow constitutional law. It should be the government on trial. Our whole society has been deconstructed by tools of our own devising. You better pray. I know I am.